This is How Do I Do This, the show for anyone asking, is it just me or is this a lot? Have you ever wondered what happens when someone dies? I'm talking about what really happens. When the casseroles stop coming, when the flowers die, and you're left with all the stuff, the paperwork, the decisions after the funeral. Today, we're going there with my guest. She's going to tell us, how do I do this with all of the things that come after a death? And she knows firsthand what this is like. My guest today is Rachel Donnelly, and she is the founder of a service called AfterLight. She's walking us through, how do I deal with all this paperwork? In this episode, you're going to get a better understanding of what really falls on family members when a loved one passes, practical ways to make sure your family is not left drowning with your stuff, and if you have loved ones still here, how you can start the conversation with love and not fear so that it is easier for you when those big moments happen. Rachel, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Ryanne.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm so happy you're here. So we have a tradition we're talking about stuff.
I'm loving it.
My grandma's china. We
Love
have
it.
tea because Grandma Mabel was spilling the tea with all the church ladies way before it was in the Urban Dictionary.
Well, we've got to keep this going.
Yeah, we do. And you know, you're going to talk about stuff, but you know how there are those things that are precious, and her tea set is one of those precious
I love it.
things.
And I love that you're using it because so many
Yes.
people inherit china and they do not want it. So I'm loving that you're
Yes.
using it.
Yes, and it creating, this is actually her dining room table too. And so one thing I love about this podcast is that we're marrying the idea of an old way of storytelling with a new way of storytelling. So it's so special that you're here to talk about stuff. So let's just jump in. When I went to your website and I saw that you said if you had a title that the title of your life would be Death Becomes Her, which I cracked up because I think when you've dealt with big grief, all of a sudden you get a dark sense of humor and or a darker sense of humor in my case. Tell us your story and how you ended up in a situation that a lot of us won't find ourselves in.
You know, it's funny when you start sort of looking back at your life retrospectively, sometimes you can sort of see these little moments that have led up to a big moment and these little things that sort of you're thinking back, oh my goodness, this makes sense now that I have a career in sort of the death space because there were so many things growing up that led to this and led to my career. So I feel like I'm in the place I should be now. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a small town, Hampton, Georgia, where my dad was the only doctor in town. And so I would, of course, file patient records and I would help answer the phone. And, so I was around people who were sick and dying. I used to accompany my dad on house calls. I used to go to the hospital with him. So I was used to that. That was part of my everyday. And every night it was stories from the ER and sort of things. I know it was not, it was looking back, probably shouldn't have been the theme of our dinner, but
ours was radio station and create
entertainment.
So I get it. I hung out with my dad all the time.
I get it. So it's sort of one of
family
those
business. You talk about it at dinner.
Talk about it. Well, my mom worked for my dad. So that was very much, a part of our everyday. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, my dad got sick when I was 13 and he struggled trying to overcome his cancer diagnosis for about 3 years. And then he passed away when I was 16, when he was 48. And so I watched my mom be a young-ish widow, and I was really sort of introduced to the world of, oh my gosh, we have to sell his medical practice. We have to figure out what to do with this
16.
car. Yeah. I saw my mom really struggle with those things. She had 3 children and my sister and my brother. And she worked for my dad. So that was her employment, the main breadwinner in our family. Of course, her husband of 25 years. So, I watched her go through these unavoidable administrative tasks of death and dying. You've got to sell their business. You've got to get rid of his car.
She's a widow and she's a mom.
And she's a mom. Yeah. And so it was very overwhelming. And of course, I was at a very pivotal point in life of being a teenager and then, fast forward, I lost all of my grandparents sort of at young ages. And I had a great career going on. I just accepted a brand new job. I had a 1 and a 3-year-old, was married at this time. And my mom, I started a brand new job where I had no time off in the first 90 days. I was on sort of this probationary period with my new employer, which I was really trying to wow here in Atlanta. And my mom got sick, was diagnosed with cancer, and died within the first 60 days. So I wasn't supposed to take off any time. And that was the time I really needed to take off time. Yeah. And I was wowing nobody at that point, let alone myself. I was spending my days, going back and forth to the hospital. And then, of course, when she passed away, and I had to start taking care of her brother, my uncle, who was in latter stages of Parkinson's disease. She had been his caregiver, his healthcare power of attorney, financial power, those sorts of roles. So now that was on me to not only settle on my parents' estate, but also to take care of an aging loved one, keep a career going, stay married, have 2 young babies, and figure out what's for dinner, right? And
I was gosh. I can't. That makes me, all of that gives me heart palpitations just hearing about it. You are incredible.
Well, I mean,
to be sitting here after,
it's like, what choices do we have,
true.
Right? We don't have any choices. You deal with what's in front of you. And I really didn't know, as I say in a part of my book, I didn't know the difference between a power of attorney and a Power Ranger. I was just really trying to untangle, okay, now I've got settling a decedent's estate, right? I've got caring for an aging loved ones with significant cognitive decline, and all these things. So I was really trying to untangle all of that from really ground zero, right? And there's a lot of mental energy that comes into that. And so, fast forward, God love them, but they left me a flaming dumpster fire. I had to clean out my childhood home, our family home in Eastern Tennessee that had been in our family since 1890. And it was still full of all the big brown furniture, all of the letters.
Big, huge high boys.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I had to clean out our family lake house. Then I had to move my uncle into, senior living. I had to clean out his house in upstate New York. Then he passed away. So I was an executor at the same time.
So how many houses were you dealing with at
5.
Wow.
5. So my uncle's home, my uncle's lake house, my childhood home, our family home, which was his parents' home.
And to be clear, these are all very good Southern people who had lots of history and lots of stuff. If I'm guessing correctly.
Yes. Oh yes, baby girl. Yes, they were collectors.
Yes.
Yes. And when you have that old family home where nobody has cleaned anything out, it's just been the depository for 100+ years, right? So now you're really forced to make decisions that everybody has kept kicking the can down the road. Well, here's all this big brown furniture. Here's all this china, crystal, silver, letters, newspapers. I mean, they just kept everything. My grandmother had kept the rice that they threw on my mother and father when they got married in Columbus, Georgia in 1970.
And probably should have been thrown away.
Yeah. I was like, this is kind of disgusting. So,
but then intermixed with the disgusting, there's probably things that were very sweet that you were glad they kept.
Absolutely. But really, I spent 6 weeks at my childhood home every single day, just going through all of this. But, I'm jumping around, but sort of backing up. I said, okay. I need to take a pause at work. I left that job. I just said, I can't do this. I said, I'm going to take a year off to handle all of these things. And then, fast forward a couple of years later, after I was still settling my mom's estate. My mom's estate took me 7 years till I was discharged as executor. Wow. There were just lots of complexities. And then I was settling my uncle's estate. And I was at a bank here in Atlanta trying to open up the estate checking account, which we can talk about in a minute, for my uncle's estate. And I kept just meeting bureaucracy after red tape. Well, you need this, and we need a urine and a sleep study. I'm kidding. But it felt like they just wanted all of these things. And I was like, my God almighty, I just want to open up this account. And I remember coming out of the bank after being there for 6 hours, and I really wanted to drive my Honda Odyssey through the bank lobby. I decided not to do that, but
yeah, that was a good decision.
Yeah, it was good. But I said, why isn't there a wedding coordinator but for death? Why isn't there a project manager
when you really need somebody?
Yeah. I was like, we've got all these sort of roles in life or professions that help people with sort of these administrative tasks. But why isn't there one who's just helping people navigate death and dying? And so a light bulb went off and I said, I'm creating this, because I was angry. Like I had sort of been forced to really stop my life, take care of things that, God love them, but my family had failed to take care of themselves. And to really plan out their exit. They had the wills, they had the financial power of attorneys, they had, the healthcare proxies, but there are still so many things that they hadn't done, or that they had not, or failed to do, that left this domino effect of decisions that we don't know that we're going to need to take care of, because we're a death denying society.
Yeah.
Because we can barely say the word death and dying.
I still can't.
I know.
Say.
We don't deal with it. We don't face it. Therefore, those who are left behind in sort of this part-time job of settling an estate are really left without the tools in their toolbox, knowing that they've signed up for a part-time job, and are really having to start at ground zero and reinvent the wheel every time. So I said, if there could be skilled project managers that help people through this and are doing this all day, every day, that will be a value add that will help people get through this faster, maybe outsource some of it, maybe understand the terminology. So that's what really...
Well, just to help carry the mental weight and the emotional fatigue that 100%. Happens.
Yeah. I mean, there can be over 100 plus tasks that you need to complete when somebody dies. It can take over 500 hours of effort on average for an executor or whoever's in charge to settle the estate. That's a lot of time.
Yeah. And everybody has very full lives.
We have very full lives. We're busy. We busy people. So, and I think also the sort of the complications of the boomers are very diversified in many of their financial investments. They've got stuff all over the place. They've got a lot of things, as we talked about. Yeah. We live further from family. We're living longer. We're an older sandwich generation. I think a lot of these things are creating some additional complications and speed bumps for people that are creating a need for this niche.
So tell me, in that time, one word, how would you describe that season for you?
Oh, I mean, what? My goodness. Overwhelm doesn't even do it justice.
Yeah.
That's the word that was exasperated. I was, of course, heartbroken. And that was another thing that led me to do this, is having to take on all of these roles, these tasks, this empathetic detective work. It hamstrings your grief. You're not able to really say, you know what, I'm going to take time for myself. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit in my grief. I'm going to spend time with family. I'm going to go away with family. You are now in charge of so many things that really doesn't allow you and give you the space to grieve.
I was going to ask you, what did you do to take care of yourself in that time?
There was no time. There was absolutely no time for me to take care of myself. And I think that we all deserve that. We all need that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm hearing you say is that death may happen, but life doesn't stop.
Yeah. I remember the day after my dad died, I distinctly remember I had to go to Walmart to buy some pantyhose for, the funeral.
Because good Southern women, we can't show up to a funeral without pantyhose.
No, we can't. No, right. Cannot do it. And I took junior cotillion for 2 years. You better wear a panty. You best wear the pantyhose.
You don't not necessarily have to wear them to work in 2025, but there's certain events that you need to come correct.
Exactly. Yes. And I remember just looking around and thinking, no, everybody's still just going about their life. The carousel doesn't stop for you when you need to say, can we press pause right here and it doesn't stop. So life keeps happening. Life keeps going, and you've got to just stay on that carousel and try to just keep your head above water.
Yeah. I was just describing to somebody today how I oftentimes 10 months out feel like it's a scene from a movie, and I'm not sure which one, but the main character is standing in Central Park and everything is moving very fast around this person.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel even now. And whether it's PTA duties or work or whatever, and always in the back of my mind are the things that I need to still help my dad with. And show up in that space, in addition to figuring out how to grieve at the same time. So the service you offer sounds amazing. So for our listeners who are listening, when someone passes away, what are I like people to have really condensed takeaways. Yeah. What would you say are the top 3 things that they need to try to figure out pretty immediately?
Yeah. I think one of the first thing you do, of course, after you've called the funeral home, figured out, that's very, of course, known. We need to do that. I would say that you need to make sure that are there any dependents or pets that need to be taken care of? We have a lot of solo agers these days that may have pets at home, and
I could see how that would be easily just,
Yeah. So, of course, are there any children or other family members that they may have taken care of, or pets or things that need to be?
But that cat that shows up on the back porch.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that they were taken care of. One of the big things I like to say, and this may sound weird, is securing the property.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Making sure, whether that looks like securing the house. You may need to rekey the locks. You don't know who in the neighborhood may have a key to the house. I like to say whoever shows up with the U-Haul first wins. And people start getting a little sticky fingers when people die. And this is, of course, around if this is a house that's empty, right? Of course, if there's
we saw that with my mom's family before, some of her elderly relatives.
People just start, can I take this?
Or they just decide. They just make the decision.
I took her to the eye doctor last week. I deserve to take that. Yeah, and so make sure you secure the car, the house. You may need to rekey it, because that can cause issues down the road if things start disappearing. You don't know who has access. You want to secure that. And then it's really starting to get organized. So finding important documents. Where's the will? Where are things like Social Security cards, birth certificates, death decree, veterans paperwork? Who were their sort of key contacts? And then making a list of their assets and their liabilities. So what did they owe and what did they own?
So that could take a couple of months depending on when bills come in and things like that.
So if you can forward the mail, that's going back
that's a great idea.
Yeah, you want to forward the mail or make sure somebody's checking the mail, so you can start seeing things come in, and just sort of pencils down and let's get organized. First thing I do with my clients is we create a spreadsheet. Let's create a spreadsheet of who was their attorney, who was their accountant, who was their financial advisor, who was, the dog's veterinarian.
And sometimes I imagine, especially because families live so separately, you may have to ask around.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and you're looking for those key documents, those important documents, if the estate needs to go through the probate process, if there's a trust. So looking for those key documents, that key information, getting organized and taking notes first is going to really help you and aid you as you go through the journey of estate settlement.
So let me ask you this question. When we were in the funeral home, they asked us how many copies of the death certificate.
12 to 15.
Okay, I love that answer because my dad and I honestly just guessed. I couldn't tell you how many we settled on. We just kind of looked at the person, what's average? Yeah. And so I think we added a few more to it, but I love that, listeners, 12 to 15, because that was a question I was just gobsmacked, because I was like, well, Hell, I don't know.
I know. Because it's easier. It's better to have more than less. It's
Got it.
really hard to get a replacement death certificate down the road if a company needs an actual a certified copy.
And what I'm learning is more want like the actual certified copy.
They do.
And
yeah.
even places like the cell phone company
They
wanted
do.
one.
They want to see that raised seal, or they want to see the back of it.
Which I was like, why do y'all care? I mean, if we're saying we don't need it, but
because they want to keep that Verizon cell phone on. I mean, so
not just Verizon. We're not picking on you. All the cell phone companies probably do.
But I mean, in making a list as you're going through those, that what you owe and what they own, you know, what are the ongoing subscriptions and bills that are coming through, utilities, right? And then making, you know, this is something that you can talk about with an attorney. What are those critical bills that need to be paid? I always say, like, is there a mortgage on the house? Keep paying that. Talk to that attorney. Are there utilities in the house that need to be kept, you know, paying? But, you know, I always talk with my clients, okay, let's put credit card bills over here. Let's sort of group things and say, let's triage these.
Yeah.
And the attorney's going to say, they need to pay this, they need to pay this, if at all possible.
Yeah. And then as things like Netflix or whatever, those can just be canceled.
Right.
That's kind of low.
We'll kick that can. Let's put that on the back burner, but let's make sure that we're adding that to our spreadsheet or a list or whatever we're putting together.
Got it. So I want to just circle back for a minute. And I get that you didn't have a lot of self-care, but we have a lot of busy moms who listen to this show, and I get a lot of feedback. Is there anything you did in particular to sort of keep the wheels on your own family bus related to your children that you think and you say, I think I did that pretty well despite everything?
I mean, I had a lot of great friends who, you know, of course, dropped off food and, you know, checked on me and helped me. And my husband was, of course, amazing, and he kept things, you know, really going. But yeah, having that support system, I'd say, you know, is really key, and talking to other people that, you know, had lost a loved one and were sort of in that with me. But trying to maintain as much of a schedule as possible with my kids, you know, was very important. Let's try to stay on track as, you know, as much as we can. And, you know, my son went with me when we went to, you know, I had to go to Tennessee to open up my mom's estate up there and file ancillary probate up there. And I was like, all right, you're coming with me. You know, you're going to come sit in the courthouse with me, and we're going to, you know, so.
It's kind of like you did with your dad.
So, you know, just, I'd say maintaining a schedule as much as possible. And, you know, my kids were so little, I don't really remember having the conversation about what had happened, you know, to their grandmother.
Yeah. Because you said they were 1 and 3.
They were 1 and 3, yeah. So, but yeah.
All right, so let's talk about if someone is listening and they, even in our age range, and they're thinking, I don't want to leave this burden on my family. What is one small thing that they could start doing now, or even on a quarterly basis or a yearly basis, to maybe, if God forbid something happens to them, make the burden a little less for their grieving loved ones?
You know, I like to say there's no better estate planner than someone who's been on the other side of this and had a flaming dumpster fire that they don't want to leave to their family. And so that really has been the motivating factor for me to leave ease instead of anguish for my family, and to really be in the driver's seat of your legacy. I think that's super important. So knowledge is power to me. That's why I wrote a book. You know,
Tell us about the book.
I mean, I really wanted to make it more palatable, add a little humor, add a few cuss words in there, and maybe put a little fun and funeral, as I like to say, for people to be able to read this and not fall asleep. I wanted to make estate planning and organization, like I said, just a little bit more palatable for those who are regular Joes, who are not attorneys, who are not, you know, and maybe they're getting the message, or they're hearing the message, but it's not clicking. That's just another thing on their to-do list. But I really wanted to add stories. I wanted to add my personal experiences and then also add sort of a checklist of things that you can do right now that will help you, either if you haven't created a will, you haven't created those essential estate planning documents, or you're going through it, you need a refresh. We all need a refresh.
And that's all in your book, right?
That's all in my book.
What's the name of your book?
The name of my book is Late to Your Own Funeral, How to Leave a Legacy and Not a Logjam.
Okay. So, and where can people buy it? Is it
on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, it's now on Audible, it's Spotify, audiobook.
Well, and it sounds like, I mean, being an attorney, I love a checklist.
Yeah.
So, getting that hard copy of things that you can do now, and even maybe, and I want to talk about this a little bit too, if you have loved ones that are in that space, how can you start to have the conversation in a way that's not awkward, not pushy? I often think, do you have it in the home? Do you schedule a time? Do you throw it on them? Do you do it in a coffee shop? What has been your experience with that?
I mean, I think there's no better way to have the conversation and then if you walk the walk yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you've gone through the estate planning process yourself and you can share how that made you feel, my experience was this. I feel so much better knowing that my minor children would be taken care of if something happened to me and my husband or my family. So you taking that action yourself is a great way for you to have a conversation and not for you to be preaching at them.
So that whole idea more is caught than taught.
Yes. Yeah. And so going back to some of the things that you should do when you're settling someone's estate can be exactly true when you're preparing your own sort of legacy. Make a list of your assets and your liabilities. What do you owe? What do you own? Right? Look at where are your documents? What documents do you have? Whether that's a will or, financial power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney. Are they up to date? Are who's named in there up for the job? And is it updated and does it still reflect your wishes? And you can look at your beneficiary. What am I trying to say? Beneficiary assignments, right? Yep. You can say, okay, who is getting my retirement accounts or life insurance? Make sure you're not leaving those to minors.
Yeah.
Right? Work. I can't express this enough to work with an experienced, trusted estate attorney to help you do this. I will never take the place of an attorney or a financial advisor or an accountant. I am just helping. I like to say I'm like personal training for legacy organizations. So,
got it. So you really help, if I'm hearing you right, AfterLight in your service really helps serve to bridge the gap and to speak the language with the attorneys, with the CPAs, and to be that big sister in your life when you're dealing with something really,
that quarterback.
Really hard.
You're that quarterback walking alongside them after they've lost a loved one, and then before
you pick up where the funeral home leaves off.
Absolutely. And where the attorney may leave off. Most of my clients come from attorneys because they're giving you, if you're going through the probate process, they're saying, okay, I need you to go do all of these things.
People are glassy eyed.
And they're like, wait, what? I have to, and I'm saying, okay, let's take that list from your attorney and let's go do this. And then on the flip side, if they're going through this estate planning process themselves and the attorney's saying, I need you to go make sure you've written down what are your assets, what are your debts, what do you owe, what property is out there, who do you want to be in charge, right? Yeah. We're helping them to really be that accountability partner and help them to get organized to do the things.
Okay, that's great. So if you could leave our listeners and viewers with one piece of advice about this process, what do you want them to hear?
I don't want to sugarcoat it that we all have discomfort in our own mortality. And I'm not going to sit here and, throw out rainbows and pennies and say, this is fun. This is awesome. This is a hard thing. I wish we all got out of this alive. I'd love to meet that person who will, but we don't. And this is the greatest act of love you can ever give your family is a well-planned exit. I want you to be in charge. Like I said, be in the driver's seat of your legacy and what people will remember of you, and that you took that time to get your stuff together, to get your affairs in order, so that they would have the time and space to grieve and to think back with you with love and adoration, rather than, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. I can't find the will. I didn't know they had just taken out $100,000, home equity line of credit. Those things just compound people's grief.
And I think probably add to the anger.
Yeah.
That sometimes goes along with grief.
Yeah. I mean, there were many times I cussed secretly under my breath. My mom and my uncle, they left me with messes. And do I love them? Did I do all the things? Was I happy to do it? No. But why are you expecting other people to stop their lives and take care of the mess that you created? If we have time, I like to use a dinner party analogy.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Think about it. You're having a dinner party, right? You've got to clean the house. You've got to plan the menu. You've got to go to the grocery store. You've got to prepare the meal, set the table. Think of it if I said, Ryanne, I'm gonna have this dinner party, but I've decided I don't really feel like cooking. Could you go to the grocery store and then come over to my house and prepare the beef bourguignon, and then could you stay after and clean up, and could you wash the dishes, and could you, that is what we're doing when we don't get in the driver's seat of our own estate planning. It is like asking somebody to be in charge of our own dinner party.
Wow. I love that analogy. I also love that the dish you picked out is my husband's favorite thing that I cook for him. That was purely coincidental, but the art of French cooking.
I saw Julia Childs and I was like, I'm going to use beef bourguignon.
Yeah, no, it's so funny.
And I saw your Le Creuset, and I was like, all right, that's what we're going to use. But
yeah.
But I mean, that's a very complicated and time-consuming dish, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It takes all day to make.
It takes all day, and I'm not going to ask you to come over and do all of that.
That's a great analogy.
So this is our own damn dinner party.
Yeah, and we should do the work.
We got to put on our big girl pants, and it's hard. It's tough. Nobody likes this. I mean, death and taxes. I mean, who wants to deal with that?
Well, I mean, even talking with you now, I'm thinking about some things that my husband and I could do better even right now, and should do better.
Yeah.
Because that dinner party analogy is powerful.
Yeah.
Good job with that. So,
and maybe you can add this in later going back, but don't forget about your digital assets. That is one of the biggest blind spots that I see out there. Aside from, we think more about who our assets are going to go to rather than who's going to be in charge. We think very little about who's going to be our executor, who's going to be our healthcare power of attorney, our financial power of attorney. But also make sure when you're looking at your estate comprehensively that you are including how many emails you have and what you use them for, your online social media, where are your photos. That is one of the biggest heartbreaking things that I encounter when someone has lost a loved one, either suddenly and they don't have the unlock code to the phone. They can't get into the computer, and then they're essentially locked out a lot of those digital memories. So make sure you're sharing some of those, the unlock code, how to get into your computer, what you may use in terms of your iCloud or your so that those memories are preserved.
Yeah, that's really good. So before we go, I always ask my guests my fabulous 5 questions. First thing that comes on the top of your head. We don't need a lot of explanation.
Okay.
But my version of a lightning round. So what is one piece of advice, you talked about your mom a lot, maybe even your dad, that you carry with you and you really think about on a fairly regular basis as you're doing this work?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What's a phrase or something or a piece of advice that they gave you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, my mother really taught me to live boldly. She did not conform. She really lived by her own rules. and she didn't care what other people thought. And
She sounds like my kind of woman. I
she
like her.
she was a piece of work. But so she really taught me to be your own person and to sort of color outside the lines a little bit, and to, you know, she was still going around and like going on these archaeological digs, like in her late 60s, you know,
It's
like
amazing.
she hitchhiked. Like she called me, she's like, well, I had to get a ride from a truck driver. And I was like, what are you doing? You know, so she wasn't scared of life. So I think that's one thing that she was just like, I don't care.
She's gonna hitchhike.
I'm just gonna do this. Yeah. So she really was unabashedly just unafraid.
What was her name?
Carolyn.
Carolyn sounds like a lot of fun.
Carolyn was a lot of fun. Yes. Well, you know, she was a big rebel. She grew up in Harriman, Tennessee, which is the utopia of temperance.
Okay.
It was a planned community where no alcohol was allowed in the community, or they would seize your property.
Well, it sounds like you have a second book in you.
I do. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that. But yes, so that's one thing that I learned from my mother.
Wow. Okay. So in your dark moments when you've had a lot of heavy stuff going on, what is something that you do or you have that is comforting to you? What's your go-to?
Gratitude.
Yeah,
I try to just be thankful for what I've got, and to know that, you know, it could be worse, right? Like I lost my parents. Yes. Was it too young? Yes. Is that the natural order of life? Yes. Unfortunately, I could have it worse. I'm very thankful for what I had, you know, the time that I had with my parents, the time, you know, we had some great memories. You know, I cussed both of them, but yeah, I try to be thankful and remind myself that I've got it pretty good. I have an amazing husband. I have amazing kids. I've had an amazing career.
Yeah. And you get to walk with people now in a space that's so precious.
Yeah.
Like that's an honor to do
It
that.
really is. It really is. And this, you know, I just decided I wanted to do this. I want people to have a different experience than what I had.
Yeah, I love that. So what's something that's very sacred to you? We talked about how your mom was a collector. Is there anything of hers that you're just like, this is house may catch on fire and I want to grab this one thing?
Oh my gracious. She had this little cup that she would make the roux for gravy with. And so she loved gravy. She called it Garvey. She said Garvey was its own food group. And so she had this little cup that she would start to make the roux for gravy. And that was one thing I wanted to grab out of her house when after she died. So yeah.
If you could ask God, or whatever you call God, one question and get an answer, what do you want to know?
Boy, you've really thrown some doozies. You don't make this easy. How do we do better at practicing gratitude on a daily basis? You know, I feel like I have to remind myself, but how can we be better about not having to force ourselves? And maybe that's something internal, but I don't know. That wasn't a very good one.
No, I think that is good, but I think, I mean, and this is just my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when you notice you're holding your breath.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you're noticing is the thing that's important.
Yeah.
It would be really sad if you didn't notice.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're doing better than you think.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to know, do we get to see him on the other side? You know, what happens after this, you know? Are they mad that I wrote all these things about him in my book?
Maybe not. So what is your one kind of ride or die? And it can be a swear word, a phrase, a motto, when you're just kind of like done with life for the day and it's just too much.
My mother was the queen of sayings. She had a saying for everything. And I had, for years, even before she died, I had a book called Mama's Sayings in it. And she would just come up with this stuff. And I'm like, you are batshit crazy. Where do you come up with this stuff? And she used to say, I feel more like I do now than I did before. Yeah,
Wait,
let that
say
sit.
that again?
Exactly. I feel more like I do now than I did before.
Okay.
Yes. And it was, I mean, yeah, it makes you ponder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
I could see myself using that phrase if I've changed my mind about an answer for a legal question when somebody gives it to me.
Yeah, it's like the most exasperating circular
Argument.
Because of course you feel more like you do now than you did before.
Everybody does about everything.
Does, yes. So I just sort of say that when I don't have words for something and it's just, well, I mean, yeah. Or I feel like I was shot at and missed and shit on and hit.
Yeah. I like that one too. That's really good.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in there. So
it's really good.
Yeah. So some days there's just nothing left to say, but something that's completely circular and insane.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me and letting me spill the tea.
Yeah. Well, and letting us know that, and really, truly, honestly, opening my eyes to the fact that death isn't just emotional, that it's a lot logistical too.
Yeah.
And things,
it is.
And things you have to think about, not only if you're dealing in grief, but also how we still here feeling very able-bodied can do better for our loved ones.
We can. Yeah, we got some work to do. So, but I hope that anybody out there listening know that you will never do this perfectly. You can't do it all. Like I even say that in my book, you cannot do it all. If you do a couple of things now, it will just make a light years difference.
And what's your website? Because I know you have a ton of resources on your website.
I do have a lot of freebies and checklists. myafterlight.com.
Okay.
You can follow me on the socials, on the Insta and LinkedIn. And if you want to check out my book, lateyourownfuneral.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, that's it for today. You can ache for who you were before everything changed and still become someone new. Grief and growth sit at the table, often passing notes when we're not looking. This tea, this time, this space is part of your healing, and it's part of mine too. You're not broken, you're just brewing. And besties don't gatekeep, so if you heard something today that touched your heart and your soul and you think a friend needs to hear it, like, follow, and share this episode with them. Your seat at the table will be waiting for you next Tuesday. Instagram at How Do I Do This Pod and on YouTube at How Do I Do This Pod. DM me on Instagram and tell me what kind of grief you're holding right now. Seriously, I'll read everyone and will probably be the person to respond back. Tell me what you have tried that you think might help me. I'm open to trying anything that's not illegal. Your story might find its way into one of our future episodes.